You can't see what I can see, but behind the scenes of the Ultra Live show, I have a screen right here, over down there. And all I saw was Maeve Brooks, after a week off, when the music came on, doing this.
It's my little, pump up dance.
And I loved it. That was fantastic. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ultra Live show. I'm Andy. That over there is Maeve.
Hi.
Maeve, how was vacation?
It was great. I told you a little bit about it, but my plan was to do nothing and read, and that is exactly what I did. Plus a little paddleboarding, which was really nice. Ooh. But yeah, I read so many books, and a lot of them were embarrassing, and I won't say their names because it's a little embarrassing. But the two I read, which were really good, that aren't embarrassing to talk about, are what I told you, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Excellent. So good, so well written. And then Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh.
Which is newish. I think it was an 18 or something. Yeah. And it was on my list. And when I went to the house we were renting, it was in the bookshelf. And I was like, perfect. So I read it probably in the course of 24 hours. It was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, I mean, it came out in, says 2018. Huh, that's cool.
Yeah. So relatively new. And I think a movie is coming out this summer.
Yeah, film adaptation.
Yes, I'm excited for that.
Huh. Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine Productions is going to do it. Lucy Alabar adapted Daisy Edgar Jones. Who's that? It's slated to play Kaya.
Oh, she's good.
Oh, I know her. Yeah, Normal People.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Taylor John Smith and Harris Dickinson are going to be Tate Walker and Chase Andrews. Oh, I know Harris Dickinson.
Yeah.
Huh, cool.
A lot of people, the only person I knew was Daisy Edgar Jones and the guy who plays the dad, one of the dads, because he was in the Mindy Project.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Cool. Well, welcome to the show. We're not just going to talk about this all day. We can, if you'd like. Typically, this is where we give recommendations. I've got about 40 seconds for my recommendation here, and it's not a food recommendation. Like Maeve, I love to read. I love to do things that expand my mind. Not drugs, but I like to... It's true. But I like to make sure that I'm not just staring at my phone, especially before bed. I have found reading that calms me and all that. The problem is that you walk into my house or you walk into my office and there's just books everywhere. And that's a problem. I can see past this camera. There's 3-4 shelves of books just rammed full, and then you go to my office at church and they're just rammed full of everything. And so I gotta hit the old switch button here. My recommendation for today is to save up a little bit of cash and buy yourselves one of these. This right here, friends, is an e-reader. Now, It's not a Kindle. I tried a Kindle and I liked it. I liked it a whole lot, as a matter of fact. But then I was doing a couple of little researchy things because I like to research everything to death. And I got to make sure that I have the best value and the yada, yada, yada. And I found this thing. It's called the Kobo Libra 2. Now, what the Kobo Libra 2 is a 7-inch e-ink reader with, it says 10 days of battery life if you're reading, and then standby time is who the heck knows. But the screen on this, between this and the new Kindle Paperwhite, this screen is outstanding. It's flipping right now. It automatically flips, so you can read it like this if you want, with two hands like this. You can read it on its side. You can read it on its other side like this. You can, and the coolest thing that I like is that it has buttons. So that I can turn the page with the buttons, or awesome. I can tap the screen. So, so let me go back to my books here. So I've got my library built in here, and you can't see anything in my library, but there was two things that I liked between this and the Kindle. Number one was the size of it. It's a little wider. And it has this, I can hold it on the side. The Kindle Paperwhite goes from edge to edge, and you don't really have anywhere to hold it. So you got to try to do this weird cup thing with your hand, and then your hand gets tired. And then the Kindle Paperwhite also didn't have the buttons. Like it just has a touchscreen, which is
Mm.
cool and it's super
Yeah.
responsive. But there's something about if I'm holding it one-handed and I'm laying in bed of just being able to push a button, hold it with the same hand, and then push a button. And then if that hand gets tired, I literally flip it upside down. And
Oh my
now the
gosh.
buttons are here. And then I just push this way. It's great, right?
That is awesome. What
Um,
makes the screen like your fave? But like the
So
yeah.
there's two things to it. Number one, this is called an e-ink display, which means that basically it's not a screen. So like I spend, you do
Mm.
too. Like we spend most of our day looking at LED or LCD screens that are backlit that have light coming out of it. This kind of has light coming out of it, but the way it's called a transflective display, and actually there are pixels on the screen. It's almost like do you remember those old like Etch-a-Sketch things where you could
Oh
like
yeah.
turn the knobs? That's what this is. That's the same technology, just shrunk like a billion down. So
So
you don't see the
interesting.
big pixels, and it's automatically clears and automatically does all the things for you, which is cool. So, but that what that means is that the white is actually white, and then the
Mm.
black is actually just kind of like a cutout black thing, and then you can turn it into dark mode, and then it's like reverse. And so when I'm laying in bed at night, I can turn it to dark mode, so I can sit there and not have blue light shining into my face, because this also
Yes.
has like amber, so I can like here I can, so you can kind of see like it's gonna start to get see how it's like a little more I don't know if you can tell
Oh
in this
yeah,
light,
that's awesome.
but it's like super yellow, and now it's like super white. So that way you don't have like all of the blue light shining in your face. The price of this was like $160, $170. Actually, it's on Amazon right now for like 150. The Kindle was
Oh,
like
okay.
130. So it's not like super bad. But the
Yeah,
other
not
thing that I
too
like
bad.
about this over the Kindle is, outside of the size, outside of the screen, outside of all that, is that I can use any reading format that I want. So
Mm.
Kindle is locked down to two different reading formats, AZW and Mobi, and that's just what you buy from the Kindle store. And you can load on PDFs and you can do all that, but you got to go through a weird process. With this thing, I can either hook it in, I can just cloud airdrop everything from the cloud on my computer, or I just hook it up via USB into my computer and then just drag and drop the files I want over, and then give it 30 seconds, and then they just appear in your library and you can do
Wow.
whatever. It's pretty dope. Plus, it also hooks up to what's called Overdrive, which is your public library.
Overdrive's so good.
Oh yeah, and it hooks up to this thing called Pocket, and I use Pocket on my main browser. My main browser is Firefox, and I use this thing called Pocket to save links and save clips and save snippets and all that. And so I just have both of those accounts hooked up, and then anything that I save to Pocket, I can just, if I want to read it, like we were literally just talking before, I'm going to read this story about this weird guy who was involved in cannibalism, and I'm going to read that later tonight. Like I saved it to
Oh
Pocket,
my
and then I'm going to
gosh.
pull it up later and read it. And so
Wow.
my recommendation, the Kobo Libra 2. That's
Oh my gosh. I'm totally gonna have to look into that
two thumbs up
because
from Andy.
you've sold me.
It's, again, I don't have to carry like I personally, and I'm a tech guy.
Hmm.
I had a long struggle with like, man, e-readers just seem so redundant, and like, oh, but the more you think about it, like I spend all day staring at a screen. Like, why not stare at something? And it's almost irresponsible for me to start bringing more books into this house, um, and especially if I'm gonna like read a huge book in bed, where I'm gonna have to keep a light on and keep my wife up and all that. Now I just flip the light off, turn the thing into dark mode, and I've got this nice little compact little thing. I hit the button when I'm done. I lay it down. Bam! I'm right to sleep. It is chef's kiss.
That's awesome.
There you go. Everybody watching, go get an e-reader. You'll
Get
be
great
well
gift for
pleased.
Mother's Day coming
Mm.
up.
That's a good call.
There
That's
we
a
go. There we
Maeve
go.
and Mother's Day. Well,
That was a great
Maeve, now that you're
ad.
back,
Yes.
we wanted to talk a little bit about something that um, we had kind of talked about through Easter and Christmas with Altar Live.
Mm.
And I don't know, do you want to explain the genesis of kind of where this topic came from before we get to it?
Yeah, sure. So, as you guys know, we've done two guides, one for Christmas, one for Easter. And those have been really, really fun to make and make content for and brainstorm ideas of really fun and engaging and, impactful ways of using Altar Live. And so we were brainstorming what we could do for today's episode, and we realized, well, we focused on Christmas and Easter, but what about the rest of the year? There's like so many more days than just Christmas and Easter.
362 more days outside
exactly,
of, 363 more days.
And so we thought, well, why don't we come up with, a year-round guide, outside the ministry box guide, for ways to use Altar Live for your ministry and for your church community, but also ways to bring people in who don't normally go to church, or just ways to get people together and really creative ways to use the platform. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think it's always helpful to break it up by gathering space on Altar Live. It's also important to keep in mind that a lot can overlap. So a lot that can happen in rooms and meetings could also possibly happen at tables and vice versa. And so when we kind of go by event, by gathering space, you can really get creative with it and swap out different ideas. So I think we're going to get started by going through the event creation process. Just to
this is
refresh everyone.
Oh, that's Wikipedia for where the crawdads sing.
Great book. Great book. Read it.
Sorry about that. The main idea here is that the event creation what most of what we're going to be talking about happens in events. And let me blow this up just a little bit so we can all see. Event creation is tough for people that have no clue what we're talking about. I actually created an event for this called Outside the Ministry Box, but let's just pretend we're not. All you got to do in your community, in your actual dashboard, you can either come here to create an event and get started, or you can go to events and meetings and do it. We're just going to say get started. We're going to call this, what should we call this?
Gathering space.
Gathering space. Super generic description. There we go.
Perfect.
Nailed it. And then we can just kind of skip through the rest of this stuff right here. If we wanted to give it a title for the tour, that's fine. I'm going to add Miss Maeve.
Yes, there might be a few of me, so you can just add.
It's this one here, right? With the star?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Eleanor Pena? Who's that?
That was... I was like playing around for like...
It's a good name.
Different... Yeah.
I'm going to make you a host as well, so that way she can control more things. We're going to make anyone do this, and we're going to just say that this is going to be an SMTP stream, meaning we're going to stream into it. We're not really going to, because we're already streaming, and I don't want to break things. We could put some pre-event slides, and we're going to put some rooms in the lobby. We're going to put a room called Book Club. Spoiler, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to put another room called what? The Writers Group?
Oh, yeah. That's a fun one. I actually, the church I go to now, they actually have like a writers group, which
really?
I've like looked into it. I haven't like contacted them yet, but I think that's like a fun thing. That's like a fun thing.
Yeah, that's great.
To be with Christian writers.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we've got this gathering, super generic gathering space. I've actually got one that's live here, and this is going to be kind of an Inception thing because I put our own live stream. So just deal with looking at our pretty faces twice. So we've created our event. Now let's talk about some of the event spaces. Maybe you want to run through a couple of these, and we can kind of converse as we go.
Yeah, totally. So the first one we listed was lectures, which is really broad, but you can kind of do whatever you want with that. We listed guest speakers. I think the event space is such a perfect place to have, these types of lectures, conferences, seminar type things because of really the rows. Because I think when you have events like this, and I mean, there's a lot of uses for that as we go down the list, but when you have events like that, I think it's really important to have that audience connection, whether it be the person who is speaking or the people in the audience. And, when we get into other things on this list, I think the huge part is that audience connection, whether it's, within the rows or the person who's leading the event, just like knowing people are sitting near each other and being able to have that discussion, that banter, that closeness, because having a audience really really makes an event.
Yeah, agreed. And as we go down the list here too, with like conferences,
Mm-hmm.
seminars, things like that, the idea that you can just sit in a row here. Let me turn my mic
Mm,
up. I just had to turn it down there. The idea that you can sit in a row and react to what's going on. So something like a TED Talk, which was on this list as well.
totally. Yeah.
I think it's cool because there's almost an immediate idea sharing that will happen. An immediate sort of like, oh, cool, yeah, Maeve just said I have to stand up and do my power pose to make sure that I'm more confident or whatever. Like, it'd be cool to be in a
I know
row.
what TED Talk you're talking
Of course you do. Everyone knows that one. That's this one here. Uh,
about.
but okay, so yeah, like it'd be cool to be able to turn to the person next to me in my row and just be like, yeah,
Hmm.
man, I would love to figure out how to do a power pose or
Totally.
something. Um, the one that you listed here that I do want to dive into real quick is auctions. I think
Oh,
that's an interesting one. Like I kind of skimmed over it when I was going through the list, but
yeah.
like, man, that would be awesome to do an auction in a row here. And like
Yeah.
I think it's you can definitely do it.
You can definitely do it. I think also kind of the cherry on top for the event space is having those polls and announcements in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Because, I think, I mean, yeah, so you really think of it as the screen and the rows. And having the rows itself is just incredible as it is, because you have that opportunity to really be together online, but
Yep.
then also you can have the polls, the announcements, the chat. So because I know when you're in a row, you only have, the four people near you. So if there's someone else on the other side of the room, you can still communicate with them. And
Mm.
so I honestly think an auction could work, because if you had it set up in the live stream and they're live streaming an auction, and maybe some people would be maybe there live in the room with them, and then also some people on altar, you could have the hosts be the one who'd be like, okay, well, this person in whatever section called it first. So I think it would definitely be, you'd have to get creative and be really systematic and organized. But I totally think I think it totally could work, and I think it would be really fun.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Another one that's worked that we have seen work is the comedy show, the variety show.
Yes. Yes.
Our good buddy, we actually interviewed him
Hmm.
months ago now, but
That was
Akintunde,
so fun.
it was fun, and he really opened our eyes, I think, to alternate and alternative uses of Alter Live and what we could actually do with the platform.
Right.
And so the comedy show, the variety show, the other one that I really like, obviously live streaming theater and pageants and stuff, that kind of takes on a life of its own, especially when you have
Hmm.
proud parents in the live streaming theater thing. The kids movie night one, I think, would be a laugh riot. To be
Oh
in
my
a
gosh.
in can you imagine watching like Madagascar with I don't know, 20 kids, and they all have phones or iPads
Hmm.
and they don't know how to really use them yet. And so you just get a
Yeah.
lot of like like this, and just like it's aimed up their nose as they're watching. Like, how funny would
Yes.
that be?
Yeah, and I also think it's a really great idea, because you can still have this opportunity to get a bunch of kids together,
Mm-hmm.
but the parents can be right there.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's great for, I guess, I don't know, like monitoring reasons. If, the parent is like, "Oh, I don't know if this movie is okay for the kids." So instead of like really not knowing, sending your kids off to the church building, and they're going to show them like, Evan Almighty, which is a movie I watched with my youth group, and I was like,
Whoa.
should I be watching this anyway?
Whoa. That's deep. That's a
I
weird
know.
one.
No, I know. And so I guess instead of like, being worried if your kid is like, okay, is this a right movie for your kid to be watching? You can be right there, and but still allow your kid to have that freedom to be with their friends in a row, and, chat online, but be in a safe environment and for a really fun time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. I love it. The other one we can probably talk about right now is the trivia and the game night. I think that would go
Mm,
well in events. I also think it would go well in tables. But like,
yeah.
sell me on it being better in an event space.
Yes. I mean, I'm always going to say the rows. The rows aspect is really great because one, it already kind of sets you up in teams if
Mm-hmm.
you're in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And it can, so I mean, it would depend on how you're setting it up. But I remember when I talked to
Mm-hmm.
Crossway Church months ago, they kind of had, I mean, they would have game night, little game breakout rooms,
Mm-hmm.
but then they would also, when they would also have in their services, they would have maybe like games or, questions and discussion questions. And so you could easily kind of translate that to a trivia game if you're live streaming from a place and you can have those questions or trivia questions be up on the screen, and then people could um, send in their answers like a direct message or something, and then have the answers put up on the screen. So I think you have to get creative with it, but I think it really is possible because it's a lot of there's a lot of spaces to um, communicate
We
within your team and then within the chat, but then also you can direct message and then people could put it up on the
mhm.
screen. Yeah.
We did a we hosted a holiday party for our good friends
Mm-hmm.
at Ecamm. Shout out to Ecamm. We're using them right now. We love them. Save 20% on
Love
Ecamm and
them.
Ultra Live subscriptions with the code in the comments. Man, that was like a real YouTube thing there. That was
That was
fantastic.
awesome.
I feel weak and hazy now. But when we hosted a Christmas party for them, and one of the things that they came up with was a trivia contest, and it was weird because they were doing it in both Ultra Live and on their live Facebook page. So there was a weird sort of delay because Facebook doesn't play well with anything, as we kind of talked about pre-show. Um, and so if they had kept it just in the Ultra Live space, it would have been brilliant because what
Mm.
they would do is they had their three presenters on camera. So they had two in one location and then they had one basically docks in Hawaii. And they were going back and forth between them. And Doc would read out the question and then he'd give 30 to 45 seconds to find the answer or to throw the answer. And you could either answer it in chat, in a my chat, so you could either answer it in the, let's see if I can move this over here. No, it doesn't want to move, does it? Let's see about this. Oh, there it is. So you can either answer it in the general chat here. Problem is everybody's going to know your answer, but then you would have laid claim to the first one. You could also throw it in the my chats and you could do a private chat area, or they had moderators in like the first 3 or 4 rows,
Oh,
and you
that's
could,
good.
as you were in the row, you could flip on your camera, flip on your mic, and go, "It's Rudolph." Rudolph. It
Mm.
was the other reindeer or whatever the answer was, and then the moderators were all tied in to each other via like I think it was just iMessage or something or FaceTime, and so they got super creative, and it was awesome. And they were giving out like gear, like actual like nice microphones and like other stuff, which is a dope idea. But like it can be done, and it can be done relatively easily. And all you got to do is
Mhm.
just use the general chat. And
Right.
then you being, you're going to be 15 seconds behind because of internet compression. That's just the way of the world. And so you'll read the question, you'll wait your 45 seconds, but it's really 30 seconds, and then whoever gets it first in the chat wins the answer, and like boom, there you go. That's your trivia night, and
Mhm.
that sounds awesome.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah, totally. The other one I wanted to get to, bingo night. That was a good one too. Bingo would be dope, I think.
Yeah, I think people kind of undermine or like don't give bingo enough credit. It's
Oh
fun.
man, bingo's awesome. Bingo, you're right. It has a stigma of like, oh, it's old
Mhm.
ladies with 9 cards and the markers, but like, bingo's awesome.
It's
Um,
so fun.
the one I wanted to get to was the weddings and the funerals as well. We had to, at the church I work at, we had to start doing virtual weddings and memorials during COVID, and we had done a couple
Mm.
prior to that, but we started doing virtual weddings and funerals. And before Altar was even a platform, we were running them on Zoom, and it was such a tough thing because there was no dedicated window, and there was no dedicated place for people to sit. And so you get this weird, like you'd have to set up a gross camera, like a laptop. We would have to set up a laptop or like a Mevo or some really bad camera. And then we would hook that into Zoom. And then that was just one Zoom window. And it would just compress and just do all sorts of nastiness to where people just like started dropping out. But the beauty of what Alter can do is that you can just present like you would normally present a good video. Even if it is just setting up your laptop camera at the back, you then stream that to YouTube. YouTube is going to handle all your compression. It's going to handle all of your audio and everything, and it's going to make it good. And then you use that link in the event link that we showed earlier, where I set up as RTMP. Instead, you throw that link into the setup, and voila, now you are allowing people to sit and reminisce, especially for memorials. You're allowing people to sit and reminisce together in an event space that you really don't have the time to do in an in-person memorial, because it's usually a somber, quiet, sort of melancholy thing. And this will allow you to actually engage with people next to you. And I remember John and this, that, and the other, and the video quality is going to be good and the audio quality is good. And same for weddings. Weddings are usually a little bit more happy, but you'll get the same good presentation instead of just kind of a crappy Zoom thing.
Right. Yeah. Having the rows is so huge. And I feel like, we talk about it all the time, but I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing that you can sit next to someone. And I'm always thinking, like, it would be so fun if, especially at a wedding, like if your relatives that you haven't seen in so long and they're like across the ocean or across the country, and you get to sit next to them and share this happy moment or share this, sad moment. I think being with your family during these times is so important, and
Definitely.
Ultra Live really can make that happen no matter where you are, which is just awesome.
Definitely. What else in the event space before we move into the lobby and the room area?
Yeah, the last three. So we had concerts. I think it's pretty, self-explanatory. I think it's just like a great space, so, like Andy said, for weddings and funerals and memorials, just to have like a set space for live streaming that kind of content and then being able to sit. I think, these, especially with sporting events and, like the live streaming, like the theater and the pageants, concerts kind of goes into that, of just kind of being together and making it a universal experience rather than it's just kind of you alone watching it on a screen. Because I think what concerts, like, you're supposed to be with like a bunch of screaming people, or a bunch of, if it's a refined concert, sitting quietly with a bunch of people.
Refined concert. Oh dear.
Like a classical, like, I don't know, like an orchestra or something. And Ultra allows you to do that. Did you want to talk about sporting events? You're the sports person.
I'm the sports guy, Andy. It's cool. It's the same kind of thing that you'd be doing with theaters or pageants. There are a number of sporting, how do I put this? There's a number of things that are freely available that are live broadcast now. And especially within the last 5 years, the proliferation of streaming sporting events, such as like in things like the World Cup, they are in the UEFA Champions League, or the well, not necessarily Champions League, but like the Euros. There's a lot of soccer stuff. Even getting into like the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was live, and it was able to be rebroadcast. It was live on YouTube, and if it's live on YouTube, all you got to do is just grab a link and pop it right in there. You don't need to hack anything. You don't need to
so easy.
make sure. Yeah, it's just so easy, and so you as a church can say, as long as you're not breaking copyright, as long as you're not selling anything, as long as this is not for profit or anything, you can literally gather your people and say, look, if you can't, we're going to hold a big game party, because you can never say Super Bowl. We're going to hold a big game party, and we're going to stream it live. And then at halftime, instead of watching that janky halftime show, you can come and hang out on our rows, and we'll do football trivia. And then you flip over to football trivia, and you run football trivia for 15 minutes while everyone is in a row. I think there's just something powerful to that. And yes, it involves like staring at a screen, which is inside of another screen. But like the added benefit is that your friends are there, and you don't ever have to leave the house, and you don't ever have to really do anything. The problem, I love Super Bowl parties, but I always tell my kids, like, Super Bowl is amateur night, meaning like, hey, don't be out there after the Super Bowl, because people don't know how to drive after they've had that much to drink and that much partying and
Such
all
a
that other
good
stuff.
point.
So you get the chance to stay at home, use your own bathroom, cook your own food, and be with your friends. Like how awesome is that? So yes, that's
Yeah.
me as sports guy.
No, that's awesome. And it also, makes me think because it's a sporting event and it's such a um, universal like activity, it's a great way to bring people in
Oh yeah.
who don't normally go to church, who, you've been trying to get them to come. Be like, yeah, come and, get together with me and my friends. We're going to watch, football or soccer or it's kind
Football.
of the same thing. Football.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a great opportunity. And then the last one, I thought this was fun. Film festival.
Mm.
It kind of would have a lot. You definitely have to plan ahead for this one because you'd want people in your church community to make, like a home movie or a short film and submit it. But it would be a perfect space to have that premiere if you can't, if this is, if Altar Live is your church community, or if you can't gather in person. It's a great spot. It's a great thing to do,
I think
to
it's
do at
awesome.
home.
I think
Yeah.
I would love to be part of a movie premiere, whatever we're doing. I think it'd be dope.
Yeah, I think it was so fun.
Yeah.
I think film festivals are so fun.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move into tables then, and I can actually probably flip this thing while you're doing that. Let me go back to my event. Walk us through what you got for tables while I reorganize our screens here.
Yeah, I think so. Tables, rooms, and meetings, you can definitely overlap with these. I mean, definitely keep in mind that tables you can only have, I think, four people.
Mhm.
I think sometimes a host can jump in there
Mhm.
if they need to.
Correct.
So it's like 4 to 5 people. So it's definitely for a smaller group, and you can always, jump from table to table if you want to mingle with people. I thought, I don't know how I feel about this, but
Wow, ringing endorsement.
only because I don't know, it could work, but sometimes, but it might, I don't know, singles events like we talked about speed dating. I mean, it could work. It makes me a little like, I don't know.
It does, but like in the world that we're living in, like the reason it makes us feel weird, you and I, is that Christian, how do I put this? Church singles events
Yes.
get a real bad rap because there are just it's usually widows or widowers, so older people, or it's just introverted wallflowers. This is not how it is. I'm just saying this is the
Yes.
perception. This is not how it actually
And
is.
you can change that.
And you
if
can you can definitely change
you
that.
use Altar Live tables.
Exactly. And like what we're proposing is less of an awkward speed dating thing and more of a, hey, you get 5 minutes and you can rename your tables here. So like table 1 is James, table 2 is Thomas, table 3, I don't know why I'm using biblical. This is Edgar, table 3, and table 4 is whatever. And then
Yeah.
you get 5 minutes, and then every 5 minutes you just cycle to another table.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's interesting? I just heard somewhere that there's this new like phenomenon about dating, that there's this thing called like zero dating,
Yeah.
which is very similar to this. It's
Yeah.
when you have like a pre-screen
Mhm.
date before you meet someone in person if you're online dating. And
Yeah.
so this could be a really safe space to do that.
Definitely.
The only reason why I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, because, it can be nerve-wracking, but I think if you like using Altar Live tables, like you have an opportunity to make it not awkward.
Definitely.
And so I did not like, don't get turned off by my reaction. But I think this is, how things are happening nowadays in terms of like the dating world, and I think sometimes Christians are hesitant to do that online dating situation. So I think this could be a way for them to do that. That would put them at ease because it would be a safe environment.
That's good. That's real good. I like that. Let's move into rooms then, now that we both feel pretty awkward. And I guess my other rooms didn't say, this is the wrong event anyway. There's supposed to be a couple other rooms here, and I didn't save them because I was a dum-dum. But the book club and the writers group. So what were you thinking there?
Yeah, so because so this could be also with meetings. So rooms and meetings, this will work because meetings and rooms function pretty much the same way. But the nice thing about rooms, it can all be in one event. Meetings is a separate thing, which is also really good because you can also make personal meeting rooms, which we can always go into that. I think always having areas or no, like opportunities to get together that are like church adjacent, but will still like encourage Christians and people in the church community to get together. So I was thinking like, what's a really fun way to get together? I mean, book club. Andy and I love to read. We were just going off
Literally
on
just talking about it.
exactly. So, you could do like a theology book or like Bible studies and stuff, but also if it's just a group of young women or young men or like co-ed, anything, just getting together and reading a good book and talking about it, that's a really good way to form connection because one, you have one thing in common, you're all reading the same book. So that's the icebreaker. If you're reading the book, because not everyone does anyway. And it's great because it's that you can do it wherever you are. So if you have a friend, if your church, I guess if you're located in Texas and your friends in Pennsylvania, you can be a part of the same book club and you can meet on altar. And I think that's awesome because there's so much, like, I think being friends and having connections with people all over, like, it's so important, and it's being having like relationships beyond like where you live, like that's the new way of life, and that's really good. And Ultra Live encourages that and creates a space for that. And yes, it's for churches, but we all we have lives outside of church, and but we can still always find a way to get together and read a good book and talk about it.
Absolutely. I love it.
There's my pitch.
And the same goes for the writers group. Tell me about the writers group that happens at your church, because that sounds awesome.
Well, okay. I've only seen that it exists. I've looked into it. I think it's just one of those, you each have your own project that you're working on. I think there's a lot, writers are always coming up with some new idea, scribbling on something. And it's always hard to find, like, I think it's really important to get feedback and to also meet with writers and talk about things. So it's not necessarily like, an editing circle, but it's more of a community for creatives, artists, writers to get together, talk about what they're working on, and helping each other through their work. And it can be like, for editing purposes, I'm like stuck on this chapter, or I can't come up with a good ending. Having people that are part of your church community, because I think because we go to church and we meet people and you're like, this is who we think they are. We like see not their church persona, because hopefully we're being ourselves when we're at church, but you only see the church going side of them, and they have a whole life outside of that. So realizing who's in your community and having spaces for people to meet through their interests in a place where it's fostering and challenging their faith, like, I think that's the ideal goal when you're having a ministry or creating a church space.
Definitely. That's good. I like that.
And you can really, there can be like any kind of club, and I think you can always find because our gifts and our passions, like, God gave them to us for a reason. So finding Christians who have the same passions as us is what we're supposed to do.
Definitely.
And I think we can make those spaces on altar.
Well, I think, Maeve, this has been a great episode, and I think we should try to put together something. And when I say we, I mean you, because you end up usually doing these things, and I'll help.
I love it. I really do like making the guides. They're really fun. So.
I know you do have a gift for that. But
thank you.
I think this would be something that we could definitely allow people to see beyond the ministry box just a little bit, and think outside the box, I guess is the turn of phrase there, because a lot of these online church tools are good for one thing and one thing only, and that's a live stream on a Sunday morning. But the more we can differentiate what we're doing as a platform, and the more we can help you and help your community to grow and engage with each other, and really to really stretch the boundaries a little bit of what we do online, I think it's just it benefits all of us. It benefits the kingdom. It benefits our churches. It benefits, most importantly, the community that's growing around our churches. So thanks for doing this, Maeve. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for brainstorming with me. It was fun.
Absolutely.
And leave your ideas in the comments, everyone, because we love hearing from you, and we love learning from you too.
Definitely. I love to learn.
Yeah.
I love learning.
You learn something new every day.
Absolutely. Maeve, thanks so much for being here today. We're gonna close up shop. Make sure to stay tuned to ultralive.com. We have a huge update dropping hopefully tomorrow, depending on if things shake out the way we think. And if not tomorrow, then it'll be next week, next Friday. Some stuff behind the scenes happening to where you'll be able to even customize your event, meeting, and table spaces just a little bit more. So we're really stoked about that. Until then, we will see you next week. Ta-ta.
Bye, guys.